to work because I run a small, it's kind of like a care center. So we send people into people's houses. So it's safe for them to have care. They're elderly, they're old. The carers go to them. They don't have to live in the home. Great. But they wanted us to keep coming in, of course. And it's my office is 6 miles away from where I live. We don't have a car here in London because, well, we were commuting for so many years. It seems kind of pointless. And they asked us not to use public transport. So I was walking 6 miles there and 6 miles back every day, 3 to 5 times a week for 3 months. And I lost 4 pounds. And I was holding like one of these really milky, extra hot, milky, creamy mocha coffees from a cafe chain here. I was complaining to my wife, I've only lost 4 pounds in 4 months. It's genetic. And she just pointed to the thing and said, yes, it is genetic. It's right there. That's the genetic.
It's simply not the 60 grams of sugar per one of those beverages, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, can't be that.
Can't be that. With the croissant and chocolate filling. Can't be that. It's got to be something genetic. So, yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes. And I think mid-40s, that's it. I've tried every single thing I can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Including exercise. And it doesn't work.
Right. At this point, because I just turned 40 last October, at this point, I'm not going to try to look like I did when I was in my 20s. No. I just want to be able to walk upstairs in 20 to 25 years. I want good mobility. If I can manage that,
I thought you meant duration, to get up there within that set of time. I give myself 25 years to get up those stairs. If I can't do it, right. And now I'm over the hill. I think it's not. There's a funny Chris Rock line about clubbing. When you're sort of at that age. And he said, what does he say? You're not really old. You're just too old to be in the club.
Right. Yeah. Nothing sounds less appealing to me than going to a nightclub. So I get that.
If I was captured and I had military information and they took me to a nightclub, I would probably spill everything. Right. I'd tell them everything they wanted to know. As soon as that happy, hardcore, whatever the music is at this moment in time that people love, that's vacuous like that, I would say, look, I'm just going to tell you what you need to know. Please let me go home and get to bed.
Exactly.
I wanted to talk to you for a long time, actually, and I've been hindered by my lack of memory. But I had you on my list for a long time, and I'm essentially a man without a yesterday. That's what my wife calls me. You're a man living without a yesterday. And so I'm here in the present, and I saw your little comment about some people ribbing your book online, and I just thought, no,
it's gonna happen.
It happens. I mean, when it comes to ribbing and opposition, I've experienced a tad here and there, and occasionally, on occasion. And I just thought, it'd be good. Let's talk about this. There's so much. The Singular Fortean Society, great society, great page. I'm not really into Forteana that much, but it's one that I really like. It seems to have a genuine, open-minded ethic to it. I like that there's low confrontation within the site and surrounding it, unlike some of the others where people just go to really sort of duke it out, and I love that. And then the book, I mean, I think it's great, which of course it was the part of the basis for Seth's Terror in the Skies, for Small Time Monsters Terror in the Skies. I was just speaking to Mark Matsky the other day.
Oh, awesome.
Similarly, and I just thought, of course, yeah. So this is to speak to Tobias. So I'd just like to ask you some questions about it. Just get your. I see the site's been going since 2013, the Singular Fortean Society. So that's a reasonable enough time anyway. 7 years to be doing this and still.
Well, we started the Singular Fortean Society in 2016.
Oh, okay.
But as an investigator, like I started investigating with, well, I was volunteering as a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network. So I
Ah,
was like way prior to when we started the Singular Fortean Society. So I was doing that. Boy, I started that when I was 28. So that would have been 12 years ago,
okay.
and I did that for several years prior to not really wanting to um, work for free for MUFON anymore. And I kind of went and investigated on my own. And then when I met Emily in 2015, one of the things we hit it off about right away was, you know, um, she she likes some of the same stuff. She wasn't necessarily as into all of the weird stuff as much as I was, but she was definitely open minded about it. And more importantly, she was really curious because that was always one of my first date absolutely like must do's where I'm just like, look, you got to know now, I'm a real weird guy, so I like a lot of weird stuff, and I'm not going to give it up. So, but she was totally on board, and like we started dating. Obviously, we're married now,
Yeah.
but prior to getting married, even we decided, like we're creative people. Like my degree and background is in English and writing, and she has degrees in graphic design and
Mm.
photography.
Well, I
And
see.
so,
Like that's very apparent. Yes.
yeah, right. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I like to say that she's the reason that I'm not just some crazy person like ranting on the internet, in green text on a black background, on some angry like blogger site. But it's true. But yeah, so we decided that we had the appropriate skill sets and,
Yeah.
and interest in this stuff to really make a creative endeavor, and then of course more than that, like try to build the community that we wanted to see in
Yeah.
in this field.
Yeah. Well, that really stands out, and I think in this community, actually, well, in this community at large, let's call it, instead of paranormal and cryptozoology, let's call it cryptozoology and Forteana. That's the real division there. And within these communities, I think there's a feeling sometimes that you have to be on a side, that you have to pick a candidate, so to speak, that it is political somehow, especially when it comes to theory. And those are the camps, those are the dividing lines, and the warring sort of camps, and the major figures in them to, like I say, tend to duke it out, or at least their supporters do. And yeah, I've been pulled into those things now and again, but you quickly get tired of it and think, you know what? Surely there's got to be a place where it's not as aggressive as this. Surely we can all just come together and have a chat about it. And that to me was the principle of what I saw with the Singular Fortean Society. Uh, Backhand, a big compliment. English people are not allowed to do that, are we? But a compliment anyway. I'll break protocol for tonight.
I
Thank you.
really appreciate that, because I mean
Yeah,
that is exactly what we're going for. I mean, fundamentally, one of the things that we have to admit as intellectually honest people is that we don't really know what's behind any of this,
mm,
and I think it can be immensely helpful to speculate. And that was one of the things that Charles Fort did quite a bit. He would do a lot of speculation. Nothing was off the table. He was equally disgusted by the religious and scientific paradigms of his day, because he felt that they both discarded any information that wasn't convenient to their narrative. And so, that's the last thing we want to do. I mean, it's again, it's intellectually dishonest. And so, one of the things I think that we really have to admit, and something that we try really hard to reinforce through the Singular Fortean Society, is that at this point, there aren't really any wrong answers because nobody knows.
uh-huh.
Uh, and as long as you can entertain an idea without necessarily buying into it 100% with no evidence, like if you have that
Mm,
intellectual capacity where you can just say what if, basically, without saying, well, yes, this definitively is the case, but we don't have the evidence. If you can do that, then you'll fit in great, because that's basically what we try to do.
But I like that, and I think what I've noticed in our relative communities a lot actually, and I was affected with a very similar philosophy to this before, is there is a lot of belief actually placed upon the things that people are interested in. And coming from a religious perspective, I would refer to it, I guess, as a God-shaped hole. You know, there's something, the corporate religion, let's say, has been removed from our societies in this part of the world. So we're looking for something else to put in there because there's still a hole where it used to be, but we haven't filled yet. So we're saying, well, I believe in Bigfoot, and you know what? If you don't think Bigfoot is a paranormal portal jumping ape of some kind or entity, then you know what? We just can't be friends. And that goes on, and I've had really serious to-dos with people about it. Well, I don't know where it's come from, but perhaps I've lacked a bit of tact in just saying, well, you know, I don't think so because of X, Y, and Z. And you know, we're fighting. You know, we're actually fighting in the next chapter of the comments section. I was thinking, wow, you know, this escalated quickly, and because when you insult people's beliefs, and I know this from a religious background and meeting lots of other religious people as well from other religions, when you insult their beliefs, you actually question their the core values or core perception of life and reality. And when you tell somebody reality isn't real, or at least their reality isn't real, it really messes with them. And they can either fight you on it or sort of crumble. So you're threatening them essentially. And that's what I came to. This is the issue that we have. So finding a nice place to sort of talk it out, well, that's different. It's somewhere, I would almost say that the Singular Fortean Society are the Quakers of the paranormal world. Hey, if you know, I don't know if you're aware of the Quakers, but you know it's a Christian organization. But
Right.
literally anybody can go there and teach anything and talk about anything, and they don't shut you down. They just say, "Okay, that's interesting, and why didn't you sort of talk it out and tell us all about it?" It's
Right.
awesome. I love it. Yeah.
We like to think that we're nothing if not diplomatic, for sure. And you're right. Honestly, there are a lot of people who invest a lot into their beliefs surrounding these subjects, and I guess, you know, I had never really considered it from a religious perspective, but I think that's very insightful, because I think you make a good point. I think especially when it comes to, you know, the more supernatural or paranormal aspects of these phenomena, they really do speak to that sense of religious wonder. I think that people want in their lives, this idea that there are great and beautiful and mysterious and magical things that are greater than us, that give some kind of order to this universe, that explain, you know, the otherwise unexplained. It kind of gives meaning to things. And so, yeah, it turns out people hate it when you attack that, right?
They do. I do. Attack is such a strong word.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding because I'm learning. I'm learning over time. So I'm a British guy. I'm actually from. You're probably quite aware of Britain. You have England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. Northern Ireland. Well, Ireland is the island of Ireland, and Northern Ireland is within that. Okay, it's part of the United Kingdom. So I'm from Wales, from an Irish family background. Celtic people are quite direct but polite. English people are very polite and completely indirect. And I married a lady from the Middle East who's completely direct at all times, and we've never had an awkward silence. That's how I'd sum up our relationship, because I always know what's going on at any time. So I think over the years I've inherited some of that directness, but I think when I give it to people, it doesn't match their expectations. It's kind of like, you know, if you're the school bully, high school bully, and you come up and you grab the little kid to take his lunch money, and he bloodies your nose, you want to make a complaint. This is not the experience that you were expecting. You're very unhappy with the service. You'd like to speak to the manager, right? Because your expectations have not been met. And I think that happens with a lot of people. And so I've been in some conflicts over time because of that. But genuinely, most of the criticism I have is based towards what I think. I spend all day debunking my theories and oh, that's complete rubbish. And now you know that you're an idiot to think that. And I think I just said that a bit too much. But yeah, I get a little late on that. Now, what I was really interested in from a cryptozoologist point of view, for me anyway, is Mothman. You've written a book about Mothman, Lake Michigan too, and I mean, just looking on the map, we used to have friends up there. Actually, it's just a huge area. Now, this is a huge area. Now, just tell me a little bit about why Lake Michigan. What are the Mothman stories in Lake Michigan, and how did you come up on that?
Sure. So, I mean, and we call the Great Lakes lakes, but they're really a series of like inland seas because they're huge. Like they are huge bodies of water. So, when you talk about the Lake Michigan Mothman, like sort of the geographic region where we've received these sightings, I mean, it's huge. They have come from within about a 200-mile radius around this lake, and quite frankly, other than a convenient sort of geographic center, I mean, there really doesn't seem to be much connection. Like it's not like people have been reporting this over the lake. Nobody sees it, going in or out of the lake. There's really no connection to this lake other than it's this huge lake kind of in the middle of all of these sightings. And so most of the areas around Lake Michigan or any of the Great Lakes are sort of known for their relationship with these lakes. Like even the area that I live in, technically, Madison, Wisconsin, is in the Great Lakes region. And so as far as that title, I couldn't think of what else to call it, frankly, because we had Lake Michigan there. For whatever reason, all of the sightings seem to be coming within a relatively, small radius of this lake. I couldn't any connection. As far as my introduction to these sightings, so back in 2017, one of the things that we do, if people don't know this, as part of the Singular Fortean Society, is we like to cover paranormal and Fortean news, basically. So, and the impetus for that, of course, was if you've ever seen how the mainstream media normally covers these kinds of stories, it's abysmal. They don't do them justice. It's usually, if not outright mocking, very various layers of subtlety in their derision of these subjects.
And now, on a lighter note, something paranormal.
Right. Cue the X-Files theme. Yeah. And so, we have been doing that, and I take it seriously as far as wanting to present what facts we have as objectively as possible. And when it comes to covering these types of stories, often the only facts that we can verify is that somebody said this happened to them. Now, the event that they're describing isn't necessarily a fact, but them saying that it happened is. And so that's sort of how I have to present those stories, and that's as close to objective fact as we're going to get, frankly. And of course, you verify all of the other details you can to try to corroborate their story and lend some, well, not necessarily lend, but either prove or disprove as much of it as you can, because I think if you can verify the rest of their story, then maybe it's a little more likely that the weird stuff that they said happened actually did, at least in some capacity. And so in 2017, I had seen a trio of weird winged creature sightings come out of the Mutual UFO Network case management system. And they each described witnesses in Chicago, Illinois, which is right next to Lake Michigan. They each described these witnesses who had claimed to see what they had alternatively described as a giant bat, or a giant humanoid owl, or a huge owl creature. And I saw those come through, and I was like, well, this is interesting. MUFON is sort of notoriously tight-lipped when it comes to the results of their investigations. They're not great about sharing information. And so often, the only information you're going to be able to get out of them is what is in their case management system, and that'll be the initial report as they received it. And so I had that, and they had issued a brief statement about the sightings because they knew they were weird and they knew people were going to like it, and so I'd written a short article based on that, just kind of saying like, well, hey, everybody, look at these reports that came into MUFON. Isn't that interesting? And I didn't think it was really going to go anywhere. And I think if those were the only 3 reports that had been received, nobody would be talking about them today, honestly. Later on, I had come to understand from speaking with Sam Moranto, who is the state director for MUFON down in Illinois, that they really weren't able to follow up on those sightings very well. As far as contacting the witnesses, there's very limited contact. I think they really only were able to contact them through email, and so there wasn't a lot of investigation done, and really wasn't anything particularly interesting that came out of them. But far more interestingly than those initial sightings were all of the sightings that started coming in after those. So after those sightings, I started seeing it was Phantoms and Monsters and UFO Clearinghouse were publishing these reports that they were getting from people who were claiming to see or were claiming to have had seen something very, very similar in that area. And those people, in their descriptions, just to sort of generalize, would describe what they were seeing as having attributes, of either a bat or a bird. So they would describe it as being bat-like or bird-like. They would describe, it as humanoid, which was weird. And they would describe also some more, potentially paranormal sorts of phenomena that would occur during their sightings. Some people would describe feeling almost hypnotized, or if the thing, or as though the thing was staring right through them, like you could see into their soul. Most people, or many people, would describe a feeling of stark fear that they had a hard time describing. And if I could digress just for a moment on that, it's unusual in my experience for people who have witnessed, some kind of creature, be it Bigfoot or a lake monster or what have you, to describe the kind of fear that these people were describing. This was, the kind of like drop your baby and run kind of fear, that people were talking about back in 66 and 67 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, with those Mothman sightings. And so that sort of stuck out to me right away too. But anyway, these sightings kept coming in, and so I thought, well, I would be a pretty terrible, paranormal journalist if I didn't reach out to these guys and at least try to talk to the people who are getting these reports. And so I did. I talked to Lon and Lon Strickler over at Phantoms and Monsters.
I know Lon. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, we talk all the time still. And Manuel Navarrete over at UFO Clearinghouse, and they were both very forthright as far as being interviewed. They were very willing to do it. at no point in our conversations did I ever feel like they were trying to hide anything or embellish anything. It really was a lot of, we are getting these reports. We don't know what people are seeing. We know that they're scared. We don't really have any idea what's going on, but here are some things that we're willing to speculate about, And it wasn't too long after that that I was invited then to, because of my, relatively close proximity, I was invited to, aid in the actual investigation. And because we have our own platform, it really didn't take very long before we were receiving our own reports. So you would have Lon, who lives out in Pennsylvania. So, he's hundreds of miles away. He can't really do any on-site stuff around Lake Michigan. And so he would get reports and he would say, well, if you guys want to go check this out, here's the witnesses info. And we would get people contacting us directly. And it was really when people started contacting us and when I started speaking to witnesses directly that it became very apparent to me that they weren't full of it. Like these people really felt like they had seen something they couldn't explain.
Could you often when I'm interviewing some witnesses, if they've had a very traumatic experience anyway, you can feel the fear in their retelling. Could you pick up on that? Was it clear? Was it audible that they were still in the state of fear of trauma?
Yes, very much so. I would have people, I actually spoke to a lady not too long ago who was recounting an older sighting. And I'll use this as an example because it's a fairly common experience when speaking with these witnesses. But, we were getting towards the end of the interview and she had expressed that she was afraid. She was afraid that talking about this would somehow summon it back into her life, as though there would be some sort of reprisal from this creature. And I told her, hey, honestly, I don't know one way or another, but I can tell you this. So far, I haven't heard from anybody who has spoken to me or anybody else that there has been any negative consequences that have come from speaking with us. And her relief, you can't fake it. And what would be the point? Her weary sigh after I said that, and the gratitude, that was evident over that bit of relief was, it's all the evidence that I really needed to know that she had experienced something, something that she couldn't explain, something that was very impactful.
Now, do you think that somebody brought this up to me before, actually, that when they were talking to witnesses, just the ability for these witnesses to tell somebody who would believe them about the sighting almost provided some sort of a sanity check for them to say, actually, no, you're not crazy. You didn't, come unstuck, as it were, mentally. You actually did have this experience, and other people have had this experience. Does it become a form of counseling in a way, or at least validation? One is not suffering. Yeah.
It's a great cathartic release, I think, to a lot of people. Probably the most common narrative that I think applies to the witnesses with whom I spoke is that they will have this experience. It will be very, very impactful. In many cases, it can completely change their worldview. It can be paradigm shattering. And the first thing that they will do is they will confide in a loved one, maybe a spouse, a parent, a close friend, whatever, and they'll get laughed at. They'll get laughed at by somebody that they thought they could trust in a moment where, frankly, in a lot of cases, they've experienced a certain level of trauma and they need somebody to take them seriously, and they don't get that. So they shut up about it and they don't talk about it again until they find somebody like me, or Lon or Manuel, who has been covering, cases very similar to their own experience, and finally they feel like they have somebody they can talk to who will take them seriously, who isn't going to laugh at them. And I think it's I guess I wouldn't say therapy, because I'm absolutely not like a licensed therapist, but I'm a human being, and I can listen to people, and I can help them insofar as, I can provide some context, if nothing else, to say,
I have to agree with you.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I'd have to agree with you. I mean, therapy is primarily is listening, understanding, and relating. To say yes, other people feel this way. Other people have had these experiences. You're not alone. Everything is actually okay. You just had an unusual experience that you can't validate. And I really just think that there needs to be a lot more of that. In the early days of taking sightings, I think I was so skeptical and wanting to get the very best and very um, the most validation out of every sighting that I received, that I think I was very harsh on people. And I learned, like, actually these people are coming to you, and it's a trust exercise. At the very least, you should believe everybody who tells you something to their face, at the very, very least. And whatever you decide to do with the sighting afterwards, whether that be for reasons of you just can't validate it enough to publish it, or you think there were other issues going on at the time with the witness. Well, that's nothing to do with the person that tells you. You have to be that therapist for that moment, and just say thank you for sharing. And yes, and I do believe you. And that's wonderful. And can I ask a few more questions?
Right.
Yeah, because they're essentially risking themselves. They're telling you something very, very strange, which I know from a personal perspective with some of the, especially some of these Bigfoot witnesses here in the UK. None of them want to go on camera. None of them want to give you their name,
Oh,
because
God.
should that come out, should people in their workplace or their home life think they saw Bigfoot, well, hey, you know, it's uh, it's uh, it's socially eh, what's the word? It's not that it's not that it would stop you in life in any way, but it would diminish, I think, regular people's feelings or perception of you. It would diminish that, and then you've got to live with that. Oh yeah, sure. We'd like to um, promote Tobias, but didn't he think that he saw Bigfoot one time, or Bigfoot's alive, or doesn't he go out looking for Bigfoot? It's an issue, and people, researchers, we have to realize that what we're asking from them is actually a lot of trust.
Yeah, I mean, I personally always operate under the assumption that what a witness is telling me is true unless I have direct evidence to the contrary. I think that's the most helpful way I can approach these. And that doesn't mean I don't do my due diligence. It doesn't mean I don't fact check, but it does mean that I interview people. I don't interrogate them. And I
Mm.
think that one of the issues that we've seen out of MUFON when it has come to these sighting reports, and they did receive at least one or two further reports later, was that according to the witness, they had treated them fairly poorly, and
Mm.
so that witness actually ended up going to Lon and speaking with him instead. And what that witness had basically said was that the field investigator from MUFON had been pretty rude, frankly,
Mm.
in trying to request very, or not even request, just demand particular proof of identity and things.
Wow.
Where I think I verify people's identities too,
Mm.
but there's I think there's sort of a right way and a wrong way to go about that. And the wrong way is demanding their ID like you're a police officer,
Yeah.
and right way is just sort of explaining to them, hey, look, if you want to be anonymous, I'll go to my grave without telling another single person your
Yeah.
name. but
Yeah.
I just need to verify your identity so we can move forward.
So,
And when you explain it rationally and politely, I haven't encountered anybody who wasn't receptive to that. But yeah, if you come at them like you're a cop, they don't want to talk to you. Of course they.
license and registration, please. Exactly. Keep your hands on the wheel while you're telling me this story.
Yeah, right.
Now, I think it's an interesting point. It's hard sometimes for researchers to realize that they're dealing with real people who possibly had something very traumatic happen to them, and have taken a big leap of courage to come and speak to you about it. And perhaps if they get, and I've heard this happen with other very established groups here in the UK, for example, maybe people as established as MUFON, I think they get so many reports and sightings. It's like a business that's always had regular customers. They don't value the customers anymore because they don't have to try for them. It's, oh, another customer, another one. Okay, what do you want? How can I help you? Instead of every person that comes to somebody like you or me, we value that sighting. We really look into it because it's worth something to us. And I think that's important. A lot of people out there are getting kind of housey. Now, moving on from these mystery flies, do you ever look into other cryptozoological creatures in your area? Things like Bigfoot. Is there a Lake Michigan monster, for example?
Now, and I'd have to ask my friend Adam. Well, Adam Benedict from the Pine Barrens
Oh
Institute.
yeah, Adam, yeah.
I don't know of a consistent series of creature sightings. That would be akin to like Lake Champlain or Loch Ness or the Orcadie out in British Columbia or anything like that in Lake Michigan. I'm sure that there have been reported sightings. How many of those came in the 19th and early 20th centuries and probably can't be taken super seriously? I would guess most of them. But as far as other, sort of cryptid sightings in our area, yeah, I mean, we investigate, well, as a true Fortean, literally anything that comes across my desk, I'm going to look into. So, we have investigated other sighting areas, just sort of around where we live. We're actually going out tomorrow. Our friend, well, we'll be with Adam, actually. He's coming along, and our
Oh,
friend.
really? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, we hang out whenever we can,
Awesome.
and our friend Jay Bachochin.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow, really?
yeah.
That's another
So
guy I really like a lot.
yeah, Jay's great.
I haven't spoken
Oh,
to Adam in a while, but yeah, and Jay, they're great. I really loved his documentary too, Finding Jazz. That was
it was
excellent.
good. Yeah, it was
Really
really.
excellent. Yeah.
But yeah, so Emily and myself and Jay and Adam are going to go into the southern unit of the Kettle Moraine State Forest here in Wisconsin because, well, as you know from watching Finding Jay,
Yeah.
there has been a significant number of creature sightings and other anomalous phenomena reported in that area, and we've been there several times, with him already, and we've seen some weird stuff and heard some weird stuff and seen some weird stuff. So I'm excited about it. I actually have a bunch of new equipment and stuff that we got well, some of it we got right before the pandemic, not anticipating that we weren't going to be able to use it,
No,
for like 5 months or whatever. But
I don't think
yeah,
anybody anticipated that, Tobias.
I
That
know,
was
right?
broadsided for sure.
Right. But actually, I can show you this probably. This
Your
you'll love
camera is
this.
frozen, by the way.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't even looked. All right. Well, if my camera's frozen, I won't bother to get
That's
up and
okay.
show you this thing that you
Don't
can't see.
worry, don't worry.
But no, this is great. I actually bought. It's marketed as Sasquatch pheromone.
Oh my gosh, what would
And
that
yeah,
be?
no, people sell it. It's great.
Really?
And right, and supposedly, well, according to the manufacturer, and I'm not going to deride it because I paid money for
No, No, sure.
I am going to use it.
It's
So
all worth a try, that's for sure.
absolutely. And so according to the manufacturer, what they have done is they have combined human and some kind of ape pheromone
Hmm.
to create the pheromone in these chips. And so you get this
Huh.
little jar, and it's got like 10 or so chips in it, and they are pungent. Absolutely, really. Like, don't open it
I'm
inside
sure they're
if
really
you get
fun.
me. Yeah.
Oh
And
gosh.
so yeah, and so we've got a trail camera
Uh-huh.
that we picked up
Okay.
that I've been itching to use forever.
Yeah.
And so, we want to go out with Jay and Adam tomorrow, and we'll have all of our normal recording equipment. Like Emily's got her super
Yeah.
nice camera that is way too slow to capture anything actually paranormal, but it looks really nice. Um, like what everything that you shoot with it is super pretty, and Jay and I have our body cameras and all of that extra. Um, Equipment and everything. But I'm excited to use this trail camera because, of course, what I want to do is I want to take one of these pheromone chips to some spot chosen by Jay because, frankly, he knows the area much better than any of us do. And I want to bait it with this pheromone chip and set this trail camera up and just see what happens. Like, we'll come back in a month
I
and
think
check
it's a
on it.
great idea. I think it's a
Yeah.
fantastic idea. Now, of course, my mind always goes to the comical outcome, which is you come back in a month and you find a very roughly written hand note, maybe etched into some boxing. Please leave better chips, right?
Right.
But no, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I had this thing for a long time of just going out and maybe, using horse musk or something, but just to disguise our own smell. Or maybe in the UK, something from some kind of cattle, something that's very common around the country, deer musk even perhaps. But then there was the worry that we may attract other aggressive deer. Just,
Oh.
yeah, and they can be pretty grumpy actually
Oh,
sometimes.
and
These
like
red
in
deer, yeah,
rutting season or something? Yeah, a deer will
yeah,
mess
yeah.
you up. You don't
Oh,
you don't want to be part of that.
absolutely. There's a park very close to here, so I'm in Surrey. I'm literally 50 yards over the border from London in Surrey, and Richmond Park is very close to us, and Bushy Park, and this is all part of the sort of London park system, and they're full of deer. So every October, every sensible, or September to say late October, every sensible local knows to stay out of the park. But at that point, you also get a big rush of tourists and photographers that go in that want to photograph the deer rutting. And of course, a couple of times a year, somebody gets really messed up because,
Right.
they're like 4 feet away from two rutting stag and they don't like it. So, I mean, it would seem like common sense, of course, but there's not much of that to go around sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the zoo. There are no fences. I remember we were taking a walk through this park with the family, and I had one of the girls, I've got two daughters, on my shoulders, and we're going down the path. And for most of the year, you can just kind of walk around in there. They're everywhere. And we saw a doe at the bottom of this path, and there was high hedges on each side. And she looked a bit nervous. And then I'm sure it must have been, I'm only about 5'9", it must have been about 6 feet head height. I saw the nose and the big antlers of a red deer sticking out from behind a bush, eyeing us very suspiciously. And I said, turn around, we gotta go around. Just turn around. And my wife was
Smart.
like, no, 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 it's just a deer. And I said, listen, trust me, we gotta go around. And I think we walked around for about 45 minutes. It was a real pain, but it was worth it to not have antler marks all over you. So yeah, we've tried things like that. I digress. Always we considered these things. I even considered going into places with some sort of I don't know, some sort of sand, some very dark colored sand that would leave an impression where there's been sightings, and leaving food out and covering all of the ground with this sand to try to get some prints. All kinds of things that have never worked out, but are always worth a try. Just tell me about you guys. What's the what's the long-term plan? I mean, would you like to start conferences? Do you intend to make separate documentaries about the individual fortune subjects that you investigate? Or is this more of an incremental operation where you're going to just let it grow and grow and grow and see where that takes you?
Sure. Honestly, I think it's probably the latter more than anything. I mean, honestly, first and foremost, I am a writer. Writing that's my comfort zone. It's what I'm
Yeah.
most comfortable doing. I do make public speaking appearances. So I have been paid to go to conferences and deliver talks to people, and I'm perfectly happy doing that. The best part about that is getting to meet people who are interested in the subject. And so, like we already do that, and I think we'll likely continue to do so. As far as things like documentaries, I don't know that we have a lot of interest at this time in filming our own documentaries, but I have been contacted. Well, I've worked with Small Town Monsters before. We've got, on the trail of the Lake Michigan Mothman, which is still happening. It was postponed because of that pesky global pandemic.
Yes.
But what
That
I'm
thing.
yeah, right. I'm sure we'll end up filming that, 2021 instead of 2020 like we wanted to. And I've been contacted by television producers. I did the series premiere of Expedition X, which was the spinoff of Expedition Unknown.
Okay, with
Yeah, where they
Josh.
cover more weird stuff, I guess.
Mm,
And so I guess it's a really long-winded way of saying that am happy to do documentaries if somebody else is filming it and I just have to show up.
this is kind
So,
of how I feel too.
right.
So- well, I'm not a director or film producer. Anyway, I also am very just comfortable with writing. I'm okay out in the woods. I'm better on water personally. I was always a lake monster guy to begin with, and the Bigfoot thing kind of came later. Um, when I started broadening, and the other cryptids too, when I started broadening my interests. But I'm most comfortable on or next to water, and it's a different. I think it's a different world out there in the woods. I mean, especially in your country. Over here, at least, you're unlikely to run into anything big, although there may be a few big cats running around. We're not going to
Sure.
meet a bear en route or anything like that, or even a bunch
Right.
of wolves.
Sure.
Um, so, I mean, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. I have spent a little time in the US at Lake Champlain, which
Right.
was very interesting. And that to me seemed huge at the time. 114 miles long, I think, 14 miles wide at its widest point. And on a map next to Lake Michigan, you can't even see that lake. Um, it's a blip, right? And it's people don't in the UK they don't think about that. That Loch Ness, for instance, is only 25 miles long and a mile and a half at its widest, and that's the biggest body of water, inland body of water in the UK. And yet, you know, Lake Michigan, what's that like the size of Wales or something? It's it's a huge area.
Um, I actually just looked it up
Oh,
because I
really?
want to know.
It's
Yeah, Lake Michigan is 307 miles long by
okay.
118 miles wide.
Yeah, it's like Wales, basically. It's
Right. They're inland seas. I'm telling you, we call
yeah,
them lakes, but
yeah,
they're just freshwater seas.
yeah. I mean, if you go out sailing into the middle of the lake, can you see land? You can't see land.
No,
You're you're at sea.
they
Um,
get storms like seas too, where
really?
because they're used a lot for shipping, and it's a lot
Oh,
more dangerous than people think because a sudden squall comes up and it'll sink a ship, and
wow.
people have definitely died, quite a few actually, especially years and years ago, but still today it's dangerous.
Wow. I'd love to see it. Absolutely, absolutely would desperately love to see it.
Well,
I
on
know
over.
well, I mean, it's in the plan. I'm hoping if any of the conferences get going this year to get over for a few of them, perhaps around
Right.
October time and onwards. But there's just no guarantees at the moment.
Oh no, I've written off the whole year at this point. I don't think we'll be making any public appearances. Not
Yeah,
until 2021.
I'm sort of reconciling myself for the same thing. I mean, it's when you're paying to fly a guy over from the UK to a venue that might legally only be quarter full, where's the financial incentive for the organizers? There isn't really much going on there. Anyway, I mean, regardless of what happens, another US trip will be mandatory at some point in the future, mask or no mask. Just before we go, and I've loved it, absolutely loved it. Thank you for this, Tobias.
Oh, this was great. Thank you so much.
Where can people find you? What's the best place to buy a book? And
Sure.
How can they support you in your amazing work?
Well, if you want to check out the Singular Fortean Society, then you want to go to our website, which is singularfortean.com. So that's SINGULARFORTEAN. So the word singular and then fortean.com. And you can keep up on all the latest news and events and everything that we covered there. As far as purchasing the book, there are two ways to do that, both of which you can do through our website. If you go to singularfortean.com/books, you can either purchase a signed copy directly through us, which unfortunately right now we do only ship those within the US. We would love to figure out a way to make shipping affordable and be able to send those out to the UK or Canada or any of our, because we have a lot of friends in both places. But we can't right now. We are working on it. But otherwise, you can also purchase it, of course, through Amazon. And there's a link for that through our website. Or you can just, put or type Lake Michigan Mothman into the Amazon search bar, and that'll get you there too. And as far as supporting us, if you do check us out and you like what we're doing and you want to be a part of it, you really want to be invested in this community, then I would love it if you'd check out if you would check out our Patreon, where you can become an official member of the Singular Fortean Society, which is at patreon.com/singularfortean. I get those confused all the time and put them backwards. It's not Singular Fortean it's not Singular Fortean/Patreon. It's patreon.com/Singular Fortean.
Of course. But still, any patron users, I'm sure they'll find you there. And I would advise anybody out there who wants a kind of fresher, more open view of the Fortean world and cryptozoology as well, to check out Tobias and his great book and his wonderful society. But thank you so very much for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, this was great. I would be happy to be back anytime.
Oh, but next week. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.